Hi, everybody. It's good to see everybody on the 4th of July weekend. Many people told me that shockingly they weren't going to be here because they were doing things today. So I'm not exactly sure what you could be doing today, but whatever it is, I hope they're enjoying themselves. And there's also a bar mitzvah that's happening right now that's a lot of people connected to the shul are at. So it is good to see everybody. I just want to start off with some announcements for this week. So first of all, you can sign up for Emunah Groups 2.0. As you remember, our classic Emunah groups are heterogeneous groups made up of 7 families, people from the synagogue that meet in some way once a week. Sometimes it's text, sometimes it's WhatsApp, sometimes it's phone calls, and just check in on another. And people have loved getting to know people that they didn't know before in the synagogue. So if you'd like to join one of those groups and you haven't up till now, you can let us know. If you're part of our synagogue, that's great. If you live in someplace else and you want to be part of our groups, also certainly welcome. See the synagogue email or just write to me. And then this week we're starting Emunah Groups 2.0, which are focused on different areas of interest. So a gardening group with facilitated by Neil Spivak, bicycling facilitated by Talzim, theater and music facilitated by Deborah Lupkin-Unger, cooking and facilitated by Leona Chudi, and literature facilitated by Sharon Kerntaub. So if you like any of those things and you want to talk about it with other people and meet some different people and get to know old people, then you can do that. This week, we are going to have a virtual town hall where we're going to speak about the upcoming holidays. We'll share a little bit more about what's happening. Like I said, the details are in the email. We're reading White Fragility together and to be able to have some conversations around race in our larger community and in our own congregation. So there's still some books available. Let us know if you want one. And I also want to just point people at the end of the email, there were a couple of community announcements. Nate Geller, who's a Jewish professional who lives in Teaneck, I've known Nate for years, is in need of a life-saving stem cell donation. So if you never did the swab thing in your mouth to become a donor, or someone you know hasn't, please let them know to sign up. There's going to be a blood drive at Manhattan College on July 9th. And then there's also something called the Community Emergency Resource Guide, which has all kinds of things that you might need to know or somebody in crisis might need to know. And of course, Sunday to Thursday evening minyanim, 7:30. They'll be in person behind the shul. You can sign up, or you can register, or you can be on Zoom. You need to register in advance if you're going to be in person. Tuesdays, ice cream and goofy games with Mason. Thursday, the men's club schmooze. Next Friday night, we'll be back here. And there will be some surprises for next week. So I hope that people join in. And if any of this is sounding interesting and you don't know the details, just send me an email, send Rabbi Greenberg an email, and we'll send you all the information. And now I am gonna turn it back over to Brian, I believe, right?
Myself. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, one and all. Figured we start out today by singing Shalom Aleichem together. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlarachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlarachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malchei Amlarachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem L'Shalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. Malchayam Lavachim Kadosh Baruch Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei Amalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malachei Amalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Aleichem Malachei Asharet Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hu Nil Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzeitzchem Shalom Malachei Shalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Thank you, Brian. I love listening to Brian play. And Brian Gelfand is an incredible musician and composer and arranger and choir leader all around New York. And for many years, his standing gig was Camp Ramah in the Berkshires, the 4th of July concert. So I love that he is with us this weekend. The song, This Land Is Your Land, has been the theme song for Republican and Democratic presidential campaigns. It's taught in kindergartens, and it's a staple of sing-alongs, especially on the 4th of July. I think Brian included it several years. It was written by Woody Guthrie in 1940, and it's a dreamy song that evokes freedom and celebrates the incredible physical beauty of this country. And it asserts over and over again that this country belongs to every American. Here's how the song ends. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, the dust clouds rolling. The voice came in and chanting, and the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. What's interesting about the song is what we generally don't get to hear, which are several verses that were part of the original composition, but that Guthrie chose not to publicize. And here's how Guthrie ended the song in a 1944 recording. In the squares of the city, in the shadow of a steeple, by the relief office, I'd seen my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? The version that most people sing and that Guthrie himself mostly publicized was one that ends with imagined exclamation points. This land was made for you and me. It's a version that speaks to me deeply, to my understanding of America, my family's experience here. America is, I believe, the land of opportunity and freedom and courage and creativity. It's the land that offered my family refuge from persecution and the chance for a different and a better life. And when I celebrate the 4th of July, I remember and I'm grateful for America and for the values enshrined in the Declaration of Independence and in our Constitution and in the hearts of most Americans. This land was made for you and me. And yet, Guthrie's question mark hangs in the air. Is this land made for you and me, for all of the yous and me's in this country? Guthrie's early life was marked by the death of his mother, financial troubles for his family, and needing to leave the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma to look for work in California. America then, as America now, was not perfect, and he saw how this marred his utopian vision for our country. These past few months have reminded me, and reminded all of us, that since its founding, the tension has been there. Our country's founders tolerated and allowed the institution of slavery to become entrenched in our nation. Humans were dehumanized and degraded and told that this land does not belong to them in the way that it belonged to others. We haven't honestly faced the legacy of slavery and racism that continues to today in subtle and not so subtle ways. But what gives me hope today is that so many Americans are talking about race, talking about racism. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's self-conscious work. It's hard to put yourself out there. You're afraid of saying the wrong thing. You're afraid of not saying anything. We might disagree about how and where it manifests or what to do about it, but I am incredibly hopeful because we are talking about it. And that's part of what makes America such a special country, our willingness to face challenges and be creative and brave in addressing them, to honestly look at our past. We don't do it all the time, but we do it. I think that allows us to truly create a nation with liberty and justice for all. The call of this year's 4th of July is to embrace the belief that we can change. And I think that that's a key lesson in the Parsha for this week. Here we encounter the famous story of Moshe being punished for striking the rock rather than talking to it. The punishment is that God denies Moshe a share in the promised land. This land, Moshe, was not made for you. It's a harsh story that puzzles commentators. Why such an extreme punishment? Some say the punishment is because Moshe puts himself in God's place, saying, should we bring water from the rock? It assumes that Moshe includes himself with God in having the power to summon the water, which isn't true. Others say the punishment is because Moshe disobeys God, striking instead of talking to the rock. And still other people say it's because of how Moshe spoke to the people when he called them rebels. When a leader loses faith in their people, he or she can no longer lead. And that may be key to our approach to the 4th of July this year. For all of the failures in addressing the painful truths of our past, we can never let go of our potential to succeed and our capacity to change. Yet none of those explanations feel sufficient to explain the punishment. After all those years of loyal leadership and suffering, how could Moshe be deprived of entering the Holy Land for a momentary lapse, just a moment of stress where he blurted out things, where he did things that he, I'm sure, regretted? Rabbi Shai Held says that by this point in the story, we and Moshe know the cycle. The Israelites make an illegitimate and outrageous complaint. God punishes us. Repeat. According to Rabbi Held, Moshe is too accustomed to the people's repeated disobedience and God's subsequent anger. It's the only lens through which Moshe sees the people and God. But here, God responds to the people asking for water with equanimity. God just gives instructions for how to provide the people with water. But Moshe is primed to see every request as an impudent one and to expect God to do the same. Has Moshe become so accustomed to God's anger that he can't see that circumstances are different now? Perhaps here God was willing to allow the people to change finally, but Moshe, having internalized God's anger, will not allow that. Everyone must play their part. Rabbi Held brings Bible scholar Ronald Allen, who suggests it's almost as though Moshe thought it was necessary to do the work of vengeance himself, and hence his harsh, condemnatory words, his sarcasm, and his blows against the rock. Maybe God punished Moshe because Moshe lost faith in the people's ability to change. And without that faith, Moshe cannot lead them into the new land. They are not simply rebels, as Moshe labels them. We are rarely what people label us. They, like we, can change, even if time and time again we have not risen to the occasion. We are so quick to define ourselves and others by past failures, jaded and impatient. We can't see that sometimes the situation might be different. We might choose this way as opposed to that way. And when we do that, we lose the ability to see each other with empathy, and we don't allow ourselves and others to change. To change, we have to make an honest accounting, to listen to each other. We have to act on what we learn. We look at America's founding principles and reflect on ways that we can bring them to life through our actions every day and in so many other ways as a nation. We create one nation under God by finding common ground with those with whom we disagree rather than dismissing and disconnecting. We build a nation with liberty and justice for all by acknowledging injustice and inequality and working to address it in education, in justice, in policing, in healthcare, and in our economic structures. Change requires honesty about the challenges, but it also requires a willingness to celebrate what is good and to hold on to that. America, I believe, is a nation worthy of celebration. Jack Levy is an American who made Aliyah to Israel. He is actually Yael Levy's brother. And reflecting on the 4th of July today or yesterday, he wrote, "It's fashionable to be down on America these days, but I won't be. I can't be. America is too good, too just, too kind, too ambitious, too daring, too entrepreneurial, too caring, too curious, too accepting, too free. So I won't give up hope. America saved my family, both sides, one from Europe and one from Cuba, and my parents on the other, on one side, and father on the other, lived the American dream, came with nothing, and built a life and a family. Is this land made for you and me? It's a question that many people legitimately ask. We have to listen to the question. And we also have to recognize that we all want to believe that Jack's family story can be ours, can be the story of every person who has lived here for generations, or whose parents or they themselves reach these shores, no matter the color of our skin, our religion, or any of the other ways that we divide the world between us and them. It's true, we struggle with race, with inequality, with immigration, with access to healthcare, with issues of gender and sexuality, and so much more. Every country does. I know that many are watching the show Hamilton on TV these days. In it, George Washington expresses his deep regret over a failure in his leadership, and Alexander Hamilton responds, "I know that greatness lies in you, but remember from here on in, history has its eyes on you." History has its eyes on you. History has its eyes on the physical gifts of this land that Guthrie so beautifully described, and the dreams of each person who lives here. History waits for us to claim the lofty ideals that are deep in our country's DNA. History knows that we can change. It waits for us to say to each other simply and without hesitation, this land was made for you and me. Shabbat Shalom.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me the golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of the diamond deserts. All around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. When the sun came shining, then I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling. A voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
Wow, thank you so much, Rabbi Katz, and for Brian, for the song and for the message, and for everything that was about, and for reminding us how amazing America can be and how amazing America can be when we all work together to make America as good as she can be. So now we are actually going to turn our attention from America to ourselves. We're going to be a little self-indulgent here, and we're going to ask for your opinions about Friday Night Live, about this program that we've been running for all these weeks. We feel that it's been good, but we can make it even better with the help of your information and your thoughts. So Mason is going to put a poll up on your screen, and we're going to ask you a couple of two questions here. You should see two questions. One is, what is your favorite part of your weekly Friday Night Live event? And the other one is a question about timing. Is 5:30 a great time? Is 5:30 on the early side, on the late side? So if you can see that, if you can click, I think the poll has been published, so we should see results start to come in. Aha, I see them here. This is great. And we know, obviously, you might want to pick that everything is your favorite, and we won't be offended no matter what you pick, I promise. But it's just really great for us to get an idea of what people are coming for, so we can make sure that we do enough of that, and to make sure that we do this at a time that works for everyone. So we're going to let this go just for a little bit longer. We've got almost half of y'all have voted, which is amazing. And we really, really, really appreciate it. I can say that the Divrei Torah and seeing everyone's faces are really such meaningful parts for a whole lot of people, and but all of the things have been getting some great time. I guess by the fact that everyone's here, 5:30 p.m., perfect for this group of people. Though I appreciate the two of you who said you'd watch at 4 a.m. if that's what it was. You're the true fans. So thank you very much. And the last thing we want to do is, as you continue to take the poll and see there in the chat, if there's anything else that you'd like to let us know that you'd like to see. Maybe you'd like something new, something different, something you saw at another synagogue that they were doing that you thought that was really great, or if you want to see more stories or more different things, if there's something that you feel that you're missing, if you want to just type that in the chat, and then we'll have it and we'll be able to look at it, and we'll be able to maybe add some of those things in the future to shake things up a little bit. So thank you so much. And now, I guess we'll end the poll in just another couple of seconds. I appreciate everyone again for chiming in. It looks like people might have been able to pick multiple things on that first one, which is really great. So I'm seeing that because the percentages definitely add up to more than 100. So thank you all so much for oh, there we go. And we have the published results. Thank you, Mason. And Katie, can you just nod if you're able to see those? Great. Okay. So now we are going to turn things over. We're going to have the second edition of My Jewish Home, or Our Jewish Home. So I am going to spotlight the Moranises. And just so y'all know, if you weren't on last week, this is an opportunity for, because we can all see into each other's homes on Zoom, to show off something in your home that makes your home a Jewish home that you really love. And so if you have something that you would like to share that makes your home a Jewish home, I know that I already got one more email, so we'll probably have our people for next week. But if you have a piece of Judaica or a painting or something in your home that you want to tell the story of that makes your home a Jewish home, we'd love to have you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Diane Moranis. I'm going to spotlight their video, and we're going to hear about their Jewish home.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Hello, everyone.
Loud and clear.
Hello.
Louder?
No, loud and clear. You're all set.
Okay, fine. Well, we couldn't resist. We're going to show two things. First is this silver Kiddush cup, which Philip received when he was finishing his 5.5 years of work at the Jewish Museum in Manhattan. So they gave him this Kiddush cup as a present, and it's quite historic. We don't remember all the details, but it's a reproduction of a Kiddush cup from about the 1700s, we think Italian, and Philip will tell you a little more about it.
Well, this cup is really meaningful because it just brings back these terrific memories of my years at the Jewish Museum. And I was there at a particularly wonderful time because that was when the museum expanded. And it was an addition to the Warburg Mansion. And you cannot tell what was the Warburg Mansion original and the add-on. So basically, it doubled the exhibition space, and it gave the museum the opportunity to just increase the number of exhibitions and add a core exhibition on the history of the Jewish museum and of the Jewish people, and able to include so much of the collection of Judaica and other works of art. This did actually bring to mind a kind of humorous story. Should I tell?
Go ahead, tell the funny story.
Well, before we began the construction, it was suggested that we meet with the co-op board of the Fifth Avenue building next door, because their windows on the south side of the co-op were going to be blocked. And so the director of the museum asked our lawyer who should come to the meeting. And he said, you know that WASP guy that you recently hired? And she said, you mean Bill? He's Jewish. Well, I think he should be there. So I went, and actually it worked out pretty well, because it turned out I knew the president of the co-op board because I had handled his family trusts at U.S. Trust Company. And after 5.5 years, and I thought, well, I had the practice. So I moved on to Carnegie Hall.
And this cup reminds us of those nice years he was at the Jewish Museum. So here is something very different. This is a matzah cover, a challah cover, a challah cover that I embroidered when I was about 9 years old. My grandmother had taught me how to sew. She attached the trim all around the edge. So this is quite old, but it's still usable. We still use it many times on Friday night. Some of the stitches are coming out, but it is very special to me, especially because it reminds me of my grandmother all the time. And even though it gets a little worn, it still has a lot of use, and it certainly is an important part of our Jewish home. The end.
That's great. But it's actually not the end, because didn't you just give a gift to one of your grandchildren when they got married of an embroidered something?
Yes. A few years ago, I decided that these grandchildren who are almost marriageable age, I wanted to start making things so they would have something from us as each one got engaged. So when we were on the Israel trip with Rabbi and Shoshi and the other people, I got in touch with a woman in Jerusalem. She has a company called Jerusalem Embroideries. She came to the hotel with her samples, and she's an amazing British woman. And I bought 3 of those kits. And the first one I made was a challah cover in unusual colors. The woman, her name is Yehudit, and she is a trained artist. So she makes these very original pieces to embroider. Some kits are for children, some for adults, some easier, some harder. And the first couple, who now are married about 7 months, when they got engaged, I had that first one all ready to give them, and they've been using it every Friday night since. So now I'm finished a matzah cover for the next one who might get engaged, and now I'm working on another challah cover. So if anyone's interested in Judaic, very original embroidery, the website is jerusalemembroideries.com.
Mm. I love the connection between you as a 9-year-old making a challah cover with your grandmother, and now you making for your grandchildren, right? Like, that's a big chunk of time to be connected through those threads. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So I just want to take a minute for us to all think about the people whom we love, who are sick or in need of healing. I looked over the Mishaberach list this morning just to see if there were any new names on there, and unfortunately there are a few. Just to take a few moments to think about them, to think about people all around the country. I know that for many of us watching the news from around the country and seeing the rates and the sicknesses and the hospitalizations go up, really reminds us of what it was like when it was at the worst here in New York, and hopefully that we won't go back to that, and the rest of the country will also know healing and really do everything that people can in order to keep this disease at bay. So now Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Sarif Karachev Leah Yivarech V'Rapeh Cholim. Please unmute yourselves and share the names of people who are sick or in need of healing.
Dorit Niven.
Rachel Sarah Bat Shoshana.
Roy Streeter, Ezra Yair Ben Yael Efrat.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachmim Aleim Lachazikam L'Rapotam V'Shlach Lahem Refuah Shem HaShamayim Ruat HaNefesh Rufuat HaGuf B'Tok Shochalei Yisrael Hashta Bagla V'Zman Kariv and Omar Amen. May God who bless our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all of our loved ones. May the Holy One in mercy strengthen them and heal them soon, body and soul. May God send strength to all of the caregivers, together with all others who suffer illness and who support those who are ill. And let us say, Amen. And now Mason will put up the prayer in place of Kaddish. I'll read in English. Is there anybody who is observing a yortzeit tonight or saying Kaddish? I'd like to share the name of the person.
Elsie Rizal.
Mona Schwab.
God of all spirits, in whose hands rest the souls of the living and the dead, graciously and mercifully accept our prayers on behalf of our loved ones, and remember all of the good and kind things that they did in this world. Grant them peaceful rest in the upper world, which is completely good. Yid Gadal v'Yid Kadash, may God's great name be sanctified and glorified. Oseh Shalom, may God who makes peace in the high places, make peace and for us and for all Israel and for all who live in earth. V'imru, let us say Amen.
Amen.
And now together with me, you can unmute yourselves. El Elohei Haruchot, Asher Biyadcha Nafshot Achayim V'Hametim, Pnei Hayom B'Chesed V'Rachamim, El Tfilatenu L'Zecher Yekirenu U'Zechorna Et Kol HaChesed V'Atov Shasu Ba'olam Hazeh. Tein Lahem Menucha Nechona Ba'olam Ha'elyon Olam Shekulo Tov. Yid Gadal V'Yid Kadash Shemei Rabbah Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Imru Amen. And now I would like to invite the cantor to lead us in Yedid Nefesh, and then Matt and Haleli Abrams Gerbert will be leading us in Kabbalat Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So this Yedid Nefesh is a Jewish American composer in the spirit of July 4th. This is written by Joshua Shosky. Ay, 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 Yedid Nefesh Av Harachaman Neshoch Avdach El Retzonach O Yarut Avdach Kemo Ayar Yishtachave El Muhadarach Oyerav lo yedidutach minof vetzuf v'chotam. Hay, 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 Adonai Ziv haolam nafshi cholat ahavatach ahavatach o ana elna refana la beharot la noam zivach noam zivach o az titchazek v'titrape v'haytalach shivchat olam. Ay, 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 nay, 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 ay, ay. Vatik yemorach hamecha v'chusa na'al ben ohavach O ki ze kama nichsof nichsach lirot betiferet uzach O ana eli machmad libi chusana ve'al titalam. Hi, 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 Higalena ufros chaviv alai et sukat shelomach Ta'ir eretz mikevodach nagila v'nismechavach o maher ahuv kiva moed v'choneini ki me'olam. Ay, 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 nay, 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 ay, 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 lay, lay, ay, lay, nay, ay, lay, lay, ay, lay, lay, ay, lay, 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 lay. Shabbat Shalom. Looking forward to hear Kabbalat Shabbat with Haleli and Nat.
Mizmiro Narialo Arbaim Shana Akut Bedor Aomaram Toei Levavim Vehem Lo Yadu Drachai Asher Nishpati Ve'api Im Yevo'u Namenu Chati Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo, Basru miyom liyom yeshuato, Sapru lagoyim kevono, Echol ha'amim nifleotav, Ki gadol Adonai. Umhulal me'or norahu al kol Elohim yailai ki kol Elohim ha'amim le'evim Adonai shamayim asa Hadar lefanav Ozvet tiferet b'mikdasho Avul Adonai mishpachot amim, Avul Adonai kavod, Avul Adonai kavod shemo, Sau mincha, Uvol achatzrotav hayai, Ishtachavu l'Adonai b'har kodesh, Chilu mipanav kol haaretz, Dibru l'goyim Adonai malach, Aftikon tevel b'tzima, Yadim amim b'nei sharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz, Yiramayam. Lo Yalo Sadai V'chol asher bo'ayai Az yiranenu kol atzeyan Lifnei Adonai Kiva Yishpot haaretz Yishpot tevel b'tzedek Ve'amim be'emunatov Yanai, Adonai malach haaretz Yismechu im rabim Anan v'arafel sevivav Tzedek u'mishpat b'chol kisot. Zaru ala tzadik u'yishrach simcha Simchu tzadikim Adonai Ve'vodu lezecher kodsho Mizmor shir l'Adonai Shir chadash Ki niflat asa Oshia lo yamino uzro ha'kodsho Dia Adonai Yeshuato Yene agoyim gilatikato Zachar chasto ve'emunato Le'beit Yisrael Baruch olam se'aretz Et Yeshuat Eloheinu Ariu l'Adonai kol haaretz Kitfu v'ranenu v'zameru Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor B'chinor v'kol zimra V'chatzot v'kol shofar Ariu l'ifnei hamelech Adonai Yiramayam Tevel v'yosheva Harot yimcha ucha יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט טבע בצדק לעמים ומשרים. אדוני מלך יגזו עמים, יושב קרובים תנות הארץ, אדוני בציון גדול, ורמו על כל העמים. Omeru Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu l'or kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'Levi, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai כבוד שמו ישתחוו לאדוני באדמת קודש, כל אדוני הבמאים אל הכבוד ירים. אדוני עמים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח חיה, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את עוזי המדבר, ויקידם כמו עגל לבנון וסריון, כמו בן רי ממעיין. כל אדוני חוצב למטש, כל אדוני יחיל מדבר, יחיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני חולל הידות, ויחסוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד, אדוני למה בו ישב, ישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו יציר, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולצילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, נראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, kumitzeri mitzoch hafecha, Kabbalat Shabbat be'mekabacha, ve'hu yachamol alayich emla. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yina ari me'afar kumi, Lishivi be'ti partechami, Ayad ben Yishai ben talachmi, Korva el nashi ge'ala. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, Kiva ora kumiori, Uri, Shidaberi, Kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi ve'lo tikami, Mati shtochachi u'matemi, V'chi yachesu ani ami, Ve'nivneta ir al tila. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hayulim shisa shosayif, Berachaku kol medalayif, Yasis alayif Elohayif, Kimsos chatan al kala, Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'shmol tifroti, V'yetz Adonai tariti, Ayad ish ben parti, V'nismucha v'nagila, Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Go'i v'shalom atzeret bala, Gam b'simcha u'b'tzala, Toch emunei am segula, Go'i chala, Lecha dodi likra kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Thank you so much to
Yeah.
this amazing team. In just a second, we're gonna.
Yasher Koach.
I was gonna say we're gonna unmute everyone, and everyone's gonna say Yasher Koach all at once, and then we're gonna close down and say Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see y'all again very soon. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to Brian Gelfin for being here with us, to Rabbi Katz for your Torah, to Elizabeth Stevens, to Cantor Stevens for your amazing singing as well. And on three, I'm going to unmute everyone, and everyone's going to say Yasher Koach, and then we'll all sign off. So 1, 2, 3.
Yasher
Koach.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, everybody.